Okay, we are live on Facebook and recording. That is fine. Thank you very much, Yola. Welcome to this evening's meeting of Dawlish Town Council Finance and General Purposes Committee. It's Thursday, 25th of February, 2021, and we have an agenda in front of us. I will take all of the preamble as read, but firstly, just to remind you to switch off your mobile phones, please. And hopefully we won't be interrupted by any pigeons tonight. Those of you who might have missed it, we had a live meeting interrupted by pigeons in Northern Ireland, where I think it was Colin Pigeon captured the pigeon. So this is being recorded, and we have a member of the public with us today to talk to one of the items. Our agenda is, as you've seen, Yola, apologies for absence, please.
There are none.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Agreement of the agenda between parts 1 and 2. There is no part 2. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest in any of the items? Councillor Tamlin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm actually a member of the U3A, so I'd like to speak on it but not vote.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of interest? Thank you. Any dispensations this evening, Yola? No dispensations. Thank you very much. So we come to the minutes. Does everybody agree with the minutes? Any questions? We're happy with them. Do I have a proposer for the minutes? That was Councillor Linda Petherick, and then I think Councillor Goodman Bradbury second. Can I see a show of hands to approve the minutes, please? That looks unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Which brings us on to small grant application. We have one with us this evening, the Dawlish and District U3A, which I have it right, is the University of the Third Age, to consider a grant request of £250 towards the cost of an open day event. We have Mr. John Vick with us this evening to talk to this. Would councillors agree to suspending standing orders so that Mr. Vick can address us? Fantastic, thank you very much. Mr. Vick, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I hope the application is clear and self-explanatory and speaks for itself, but if it would be helpful, I will just briefly summarise our situation. We're a very small group of about 100 members. We are actually trying to promote our existence and what we offer to people across the Dawlish town and surrounding villages community. We were embarked on that process before lockdown suspended all our activities. But having had a year now of keeping the show on the road, doing what we can through Zoom and other ingenious methods, we are planning seriously an open day, a relaunch, if you like, sometime in the summer. Clearly, date yet to be agreed, but we hope that it will be either identical to or close to a national U3A event in early June. And we may well either piggyback on top of that or run our own version of the event locally. For those who aren't familiar with the U3A, yes, you're quite right that the original title did mean the University of the Third Age, but that's been rather sort of put to one side, although the core rationale, I suppose, of the organisation is very much about learning in its many guises, but learning in the company of other people, and having fun and supporting each other, learning from each other's experience and enthusiasms, and learning new skills, and just sharing the joy of learning and life generally with other people. The third age is loosely defined as those people who are no longer in full-time employment, which is actually a very large proportion of the population, as you might realise. So we feel that we've got something very distinctive and important to offer the community that we serve. 100 is well short of where we think we would like to be. We're aiming to double that membership by the end of the year, and who knows beyond that. the U3A is a national and indeed I think an international organisation. It's a very loose federation of local community groups. We run our own affairs. We're self-supporting, essentially. Our finances are limited. We charge the princely sum of £15 a year as our membership subscription, which keeps us in normal circumstances going along quite satisfactorily. We have very few costs. But what we are now proposing to do is something unusual in our normal way of operating, and it will require some substantial funding. As I'm sure you can imagine, we're going to be promoting ourselves in the ways that you would expect, through our website, through print advertising, through community newsletters, community websites. Who knows, if we get planning permission from the town council, we might even have a poster on the bridge. But all of these things cost, and so a grant from the town council would be extremely welcome. And I think that the town council would recognise that what we have to offer the people of this area is distinctive and important. And I hope that you'll support the application.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Mr. Vick? Councillor Tamlin and then Councillor Moorhood.
I've already mentioned that I am a member of the U3A, and I support the application for a £250 grant so that the local Dawlish branch can have an open day and join in with the national recruiting campaign. U3A operates in many ways, offering older people the chance to learn new skills and make new friends. This is so relevant at the moment during COVID, when there are many lonely people, especially those who have lost a partner and live alone in the parish of Dawlish. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tamlin. Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I support what Councillor Tamlin's saying. I have a relative who was a member of it for many years, and it's really enhanced her life. And the other nice thing about it is that they meet as a group in each other's homes, if you like, usually, and depending on who is leading a particular discussion or particular topic. And it's a really good community affair.
Excellent, thank you. I'd just like to remind councillors we're still suspended standing orders, so we can go back and debate in a moment. Any questions for Mr. Vick? Councillor Linda Petherick.
No, I was going to speak about it, but I haven't got a question. I just thought we'd gone into the speaking part.
Okay, so can I just see a show of hands, please, to resume standing orders? Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Vick. I have to put you on mute now. Okay, Councillor Linda Petherick. You're still on mute.
Has it gone? Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to support this grant. In fact, I'd like to propose that we support it. I'm amazed at all the activities that they do, and I know quite a few of the members, and they do things that are mentally good for you as well as physically good for you. So I am 100% behind this application.
Thank you, Councillor.
In fact, I propose that we vote for it.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor John Petherick.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was pipped at the post there because it was my intention actually to propose it as set out, because I think it's an excellent initiative and I wish them well with this event. So as Councillor Linda Petherick has proposed it, I'm happy to second it as set out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other speakers? We have already heard positive words from Councillor Tamlin and Councillor Moorhood. Councillor Foden.
Thank you. Yes, I thoroughly support this application for the for the grant for the Dawlish U3A. I was honoured to have been invited to speak to the U3A to one of their Zoom meetings a few weeks ago, and I thoroughly support what they do, their work in community building, especially during this difficult time. So I support their application 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mary Lowther.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm going to most probably be the person that, you know, everybody's supporting it. It's not a case of supporting the establishment. I mean, I support it, but I want to know this grant is being given for something that might happen. It might happen in June. We've got social distancing, so I don't know. I know other times we've said that if it isn't clear when they're having the actual event, well, they should come back to us when they are clear of when the dates are to be.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we have said at times that the grant can be agreed in principle to be confirmed when the actual date is confirmed and then paid out, so that the organisation can proceed in the knowledge that they have the grant available, but it's not actually paid out until the event is confirmed, and that might be a suitable compromise. Councillor Goodman Bradbury.
I was going to ask a question about that, but I think some of that's been discussed. But I think it's in this kind of COVID times, we don't know anything definite. So if it's going to be on that basis, I think it's I would certainly support it. It was a case of when the event will go ahead, but I think it is a case of in theory we're going to be okay from May, June onwards, supposedly. So that's fine. I would still be supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just suspend the standing orders for a moment to check with Mr. Vick if that condition would be agreeable for the organisation? Can I see a show of hands to suspend standing orders for a moment? Thank you very much. Mr. Vick, if we put that caveat on it, would that be reasonable?
Yes, that's absolutely reasonable. We are already organising the event in principle. Tomorrow morning there'll be a meeting of the group that's leading the process. I will certainly happily communicate that to them. And if it's not in June, then there's an absolutely clear intention to organise the event when the time is right, when obviously it is safe to do so. Really, our target audience is going to be particularly sensitive to all the health issues that preoccupy us all.
I think that's eminently sensible, and I think that the caveat would sort of carry on. If it weren't in June but later in the year, then it could be paid later in the year when the date is confirmed. Thank you. Can I see a show of hands to resume standing orders, please? One of these days we'll work out a slightly easier way of getting grant applications done without upping, downing standing orders all the time. Okay, so we're back in session. Any other comments from any other councillors before we move to a vote? No, well, I will add my 2 pence. I fully support this. I think it's an excellent plan, and expanding the community, I think, will be just the ticket for a post-COVID, and I think will help people. As we know, loneliness and isolation is a real problem in the community, and this is a good thing to help prevent that and to get people out and doing things again. So I certainly will be supporting this. So it has been proposed and seconded. Does anybody else have anything else to say? No, in which case we will go to a vote. I see all hands in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Tamlin, you're abstaining because of a declared interest. So that's unanimous. Thank you very much for coming and talking to us, Mr. Vick, and I hope you have a successful event.
Okay, if I may breach any standing orders and just say thank you very much on behalf of the group for the support and the many positive comments that you've made. And if you haven't already done so, within the application, there's a link to the project Learning Not Lonely, which I think is a very important and interesting piece of research, and I commend it to you if you have any spare moments during lockdown.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Right, moving on. Committee terms of reference. Mr. Vick, if you wish to depart, you're very welcome to do so. Terms of reference. To review the terms of reference for the committee and make recommendations, if any, to the full council for approval. Now, we've been reviewing all the terms of references in our committees. Some of them have gone through without comments. Some of them have had a few extra comments put in. Would anybody like to kick us off with this one? So I reread the terms of reference myself when the notes came out, of course. I had forgotten that we had health and safety responsibility, which is quite interesting. And we actually rarely have that on our agenda as something to do. And since that is part of our remit, we really should be reviewing things like the accident logbook and any health and safety events, and actually having reports on health and safety on a regular basis to actually follow that remit. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult. So our remit is relatively straightforward. Control of the finances, including the annual budget, to consider grants, to consider legislation and its consequences for this authority. That is a remarkably large remit. I'm not sure that we actually fulfill that, and much of that is actually down to the clerk who considers legislation. Yeah. For example, we had ideas about legislation and remote meetings that came up at full council, which according to this remit should have come to this committee first. So if we are to continue considering legislation, we must be given the opportunity to do it. But it is a large remit in there. I would question whether that's appropriate as it currently states. I'll be with you in a moment, Councillor Moorhood. I just want to continue going through. CCTV system, yes. Policy for the authority to all members. Again, I'm not convinced it's all policy. I think it may be financial policy or that sort of thing, as opposed to necessarily all policy. It does say to consider all aspects of management of property and land. We have some of that is now in the Manor House and Riverside Committee, as opposed to us. So I think that might need to be adjusted. Health and safety, other matters, and that wonderful environment, which means moving things between budgets. Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm concerned about the legislation clause, because it seems to me that I would have expected that to go simply to full council, personally. I agree with your point about the properties really now being covered by the Manor House and Riverside committees. Now we have a full committee covering all those aspects. So I think those are two things which I'm not sure are really applicable in the remit for this committee.
Any other comments or thoughts? Councillor Lynn GB.
Well, I think it also applies to the CCTV system. I don't remember that being in this, but I stand corrected. We now have a subcommittee. It would, I mean, I would think that the management of that would come along with the officers would be with the CCTV subcommittee. Don't know. It just makes sense to me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Is the CCTV subcommittee a subcommittee of this committee? It is. So therefore we give it the authority through this committee.
Oh, okay.
So it does it for us, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a good point. I'm not sure how we would like to suggest that we go ahead with the legislation aspect, because it's certainly not what we're doing at the moment. Councillor Terry Lowther.
I think it's a question that we need to discuss with the clerk, because in my view, unless they've changed his job description, one of his responsibilities is to advise us on legal matters. And I think that's where it ought to lie.
Yep, I think I would agree with that. So shall we put that back to, I'm trying to work out how we turn that into something that can be actioned. Yola, do we have time in the schedule to reconsider this with another version, or do we have to make recommendations today that will go forward to the full council in whenever it is?
I think quite possibly you would be able to defer it, only because this is something that should be considered annually, but I know that it wasn't last year. I think the last time all of these were considered were 2018, and certainly the planning committee, in terms of reference, there wasn't a committee in time for the actual full town council meeting, so that was one that was stepped back and looked at afterwards. So I think it's nice if they're all together. Andrew may disagree with me, but certainly if you want to discuss something that you can't resolve in this committee, it may be worth stepping away, having that conversation with him, and either bringing it up onto full town council with that kind of proviso, or asking whether it can come back to F&GP if there's time.
So I think rather than deferring it, I think we can make some comments on it now and look for the clerk's advice at the next meeting before it goes to full council. Councillor Lowther, Terry Lowther.
Would you remind me of precisely what the terms of reference say? I haven't got it in front of me.
So there's the normal sort of splurge around it, 8 members.
No, I'm thinking just of the reference.
Item number 3, the purpose. I shall read it out for you. Number 1 within the item 3, control of the finances of the council, including recommending the annual budget, proposing a precept demand for the billing authority to be put before council.
Okay.
I think that's clear, and personally I have no issue with that. That's quite nice and straightforward, and I think that's clearly within our remit. Second one, to consider grants to organisations for the encouragement and support of the work of those organisations concerned with cultural, charitable, sporting and leisure activities. I think that's fine. You could add within the policy as set out by this committee, but it's probably fine as it stands.
Okay.
The third one is then, I think, problematic, and we would like the clerk to advise on it because we think it's too broad. To consider legislation and its consequences for this authority and disseminate such information to all members of the authority and their staff.
Yeah. I think we do need to refer that back.
I think we do.
Yeah.
I think we would be happy to have something like take advice from the from the proper officer and consider the implications.
Yes, I think that's the sort of thing we need to do. We just need to check with the clerk to see if that's acceptable, I think.
The next one, Yola, do we need to be more precise on that, or have you got that? You got that? Next one is to manage the Dawlish Town Council CCTV system in accordance with the protocols from time to time agreed by Dawlish Town Council as owners of the CCTV system.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite straightforward, and we do through the CCTV working group subcommittee. The next one is, and this is the other one I have some problems with, to recommend policy for the authority to all members of the council, to consider all aspects of the management of property and land which is owned by this authority, leased to the authority, or over which this council has control, except such areas that are included in the civic amenities sphere of activity. I think that needs to be split into 2. There's something there about policy, which I think fits in with the previous one about legislation, that policy I think needs to be done we don't set all the policy for all the council in this meeting, so I'm not quite sure the bounds around that. The second one, to consider all aspects of the management of property, I think we need to acknowledge the role of the Manor House and Riverside Committee within that, whilst we should still retain the financial management over those properties. So that's a tricky one to word, I suspect. Councillor Moorhood, I see your hand. You can rest your arm, because I know it's difficult to keep it going. There's three more. To consider all aspects of health and safety for those buildings and land over which this council exercises control, except those health and safety matters expressly dealt with by the Civic Amenities Committee. I think we have the same issue there with the Manor House and Riverside Committee in that one. Whether there is still an overriding sort of health and safety remit that needs to be with this committee, possibly, and if so, then we need to do something about it on a regular basis, I would suggest. Two more. To consider matters deferred by full council, well, yes. And finally, to consider environment requests from other committees of the council, yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Chair. On the two counts of, sorry, I've lost the track a little bit now, the Manor House and Riverside, it seems to me that the entire clause, albeit the financial side, could simply be devolved to that committee, because it also includes the reference to civic amenities. Now, both civic amenities and the Manor House and Riverside can't carry out anything without referral to F&G anyway, which rather solves the problem. And the same thing with the health and safety to a large extent, because Manor House and Riverside would be responsible for maintaining things to a safe standard and repairs, that kind of thing. Civic amenities, similarly, with all the local community things that the civic communities deal with, but both the civic communities and the Manor House and Riverside, in that same situation, always have to refer to F&G anyway.
Except where they are spending items already agreed in their budget with their under their own powers.
Yes, but then generally speaking, if something came up that had to be resolved suddenly to do with health and safety, even that would still come, if it was a substantial amount, it would still come to F&G.
It might not.
Maybe something to check again with the clerk.
So for example, health and safety spending outside of budget, but under £2,000, can be done with the clerk's authority. So there are many things that they can do without coming back to this committee, and I wouldn't want to tie their hands and bring them back to this committee if they have agreed budgets and agreed powers. Councillor Terry Lowther.
Yeah, I must admit I'm remiss in not having studied this particular item more carefully. I'm a little confused and concerned about this, just sort of throwing this F&G bit around, because, you know, the overriding responsibilities and obligations to conform to precise HMS legislation, as well as the general good of the people sort of thing. This is another thing I think we need to think more about, because, you know, if the Manor House subcommittee, Manor House Committee and or CAC have to look at doing something that doesn't have to go to F&GP, they still have a responsibility. Somebody has a responsibility to ensure that health and safety standards are observed. So we have to look at that. I think we're going to look at the wording of all that. Make sure it's pinned down. So it's a bit, again, like reviewing the policy and so on. You know, we're going to be right.
So can we again ask the clerk to look at that in conjunction with the things that are outside of our remit, such as the civic amenities and the Manor House and Riverside remits, so that those are brought together in a sensible way across
Yeah.
the different committees.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just think it's because we haven't really had a fully functioning Manor House and Riverside Committee. It was a subcommittee before, and so things are now changing. And they do have responsibility for major repairs and so forth, which would automatically come out of earmarked reserves or emergency, whatever, through finance and general purposes. Civic communities don't work on quite the same level. It's normally small things. If they are larger things, then obviously they would come straight to finance and general purposes. It needs a rethink, as Councillor Lowther has just suggested, because we're now in a different position.
Okay, so any other comments on that? So what we're saying, I think, Councillor John Petherick.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, I have to say that I don't feel too comfortable about that. I know others have said the same, but I don't know what we've ever done in the past regarding health and safety. I mean, do we check risk assessments? Do we check that the fire alarm is tested weekly? I mean, this is down to the responsibility of the clerk, surely, and not ourselves. Yeah.
I would agree. I don't think we've ever seen anything, which is why I started by saying I was surprised when I read this that we had that overall remit here. So might I suggest that we have a series of comments there. We require extra input from the clerk. We would like to see these terms of reference amended, but would like to take advice from the clerk as to how they are amended to take into account the clerk's responsibilities, CAC's responsibilities, the Manor House and Riverside responsibilities, which we don't think are properly reflected in these terms of reference. Is that a fair summation?
That's good.
So I'll propose that from the chair.
Okay.
Yola's busy writing down, I think. Yeah, busy writing down. Can I see a show of hands? If everybody's happy, we've debated this enough. Show of hands in support for that, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Do we need to do anything else on the terms of reference, Yola? We would like to see them at our next meeting before they go on to the Town Council.
If there's any kind of issue with that in terms of timing or implications for Town Council, obviously, we can email out. But I'll let Andrew know. So there's not a question of deferring. You don't want it actually looked at Town Council because you're not at the point where you can recommend. That's absolutely fine.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we've not deferred. We've looked at them. We've concluded they need some changes. We don't have all the information to hand or the expertise to hand to suggest those changes. So we've asked for the extra expertise to come and help us revise and devise the next set of changes. And I'm sure any of us would be happy to discuss with the clerk the issues that we've got with them.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. COVID-19 support grants.
Oh, that's me again.
This one about?
Okay, so in the last couple of weeks, we've had emails come around saying that we are possibly eligible to apply for a certain number of grants from Team Bridge. Ones we've applied for before, and obviously I think some of the town councils did get them and then had to pay them back and everything. So we weren't successful because we obviously applied after that, but there's 3 that on the grant checker it appeared we were eligible for, and we've actually had 2 of them paid out. So it's for the more recent lockdowns and restrictions and the impact it has on income. So we've had a payout of, I think, £2,000 for the second national lockdown and the impact of that. Also for the 2nd of December to 30th of December, the local restrictions, the impact of that. So we have been paid another £1,808. And after receiving the first 2, Team Bridge did actually contact us and say that we were likely to be eligible for the third national lockdown grant, which is being considered at the moment. But if we were given the maximum and the top up, it's potentially another 3,000 and 6,000. Obviously, it's all going towards, it's all to do with the income that we obviously haven't got as a result. So obviously we're a town council, but there is a commercial element there. So yes, that's just an update that we are actually getting some money back.
Good.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's good news. And my congratulations to you all for getting us those grants and ensuring that we're eligible. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Splendid. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
No.
Do we need to note those? A show of hands, please, to note that report. Thank you very much indeed. Unanimous. Okay, item number 9, the last item on our agenda this evening. Invoices for payment, direct debits and income. Have we had a reconciliation report from our brave reconciliator?
No, he bravely does it every quarter along with the quarterly budget.
Oh, it's once a quarter, not once a month.
Yeah, those 2 reports are quarterly. It's just these ones are every month. Yeah. Fine.
Okay. So we will go through these as usual, page by page, if people are happy with that. The first page I have for agenda item 9, I think, is page 35 of my pack here, which is titled date 19/2/2021, Dawlish Town Council, cash book 1, Lloyd's current account 5068. We all found the right place in the documents. Councillor John Petherick, yes, you're fine. Okay.
Yeah, I found the right place, Chairman. Thanks for that. Yeah, the point that I was going to ask was at the bottom of that page, actually. But interesting to see that the waterfowl donations and waterfowl adoptions are still doing quite well, even at this time. You know, with when people are social distancing and staying at home. So that's really good. My query though is at the bottom of that page. I think it's headed Stripe. It's £197 HD donation, Spanish Bank.
Helping Dawlish.
Ah.
So Stripe is the new credit card system, or the card payment system that we use. So that will be somebody making a donation or a payback using a card for Helping Dawlish, if I read it correctly. Yola, am I correct?
Yeah, it's basically we've moved from using PayPal to using Stripe on our new website, and a lot of the times I've used Stripe or PayPal because these documents are circulated. It doesn't need to have people's personal names on, so it's more what it's been spent on rather than obviously having to blank out a lot of things.
Okay,
thank you
very much indeed. Councillor Moorhood.
Could I just ask, generally, talking about waterfowl donations, does that include donations made by people hoping to help to restock the black swans? There have been, I know, specific donations with respect to that. Yes, the anything that is that comes up as donations, it can be like the old classic, putting it in the chute, so it's things for food or anything like that. But it would be anything that comes in for restocking would also go into that code. So if there's bigger amounts, that's probably what it's for. The adoptions is only the separate line because it's obviously specific sponsorships where you get to have your swan and whatnot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this page 35? Councillor NGB.
Can I just ask what Spanish banked is? Because that was it's the one on the bottom, £39.48.
Oh yes, Spanish.
No, I did mention that myself, actually.
Yes. You did indeed, Councillor Petherick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Honestly, I don't know. I've not noticed that. I don't remember typing that. I don't know how that's come up, so I shall have a look. This might well be a word correction, but no, I've not seen that before.
Okay,
Ooh.
we can leave that for a report back. I think if you can email us an answer, and if we're not happy, we'll.
I think that
didn't they used to do Spanish lessons? Didn't they used to do Spanish lessons?
Yes, it will be. It'll be it'll be the Spanish. Yes, because it's a very small amount of a name. So I think that rather than putting the name of the hirer, sometimes when it's being typed in, it's done by a separate person. They might just put something that rings a bell. So some of the redacted names are actually individual names that have hired rooms or things in the past. So yes, Spanish, I would imagine that's a person's name, but she's teaching Spanish. So thank you very much, Councillor Goodman-Bradbury there. Obviously I knew that.
If you could just confirm that by an email afterwards, then
Yes, it definitely is that, because this is the banking page. So if you look a little bit further up, it says Rogers Banked. Well, that is Rogers Cleaning, but it's coming as income for the hire of that business hiring the manor house as rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions on page 35? No, are we happy to move on to page 36? I like the VAT repayment, that looks rather nice. But then it goes out again, which is less nice.
That was an error where it was paid into the Lloyd's account when it actually went into the NatWest account, because obviously we've been paying VAT for years. So yes, that's in a different account, but we do have it. We haven't given it back.
Okay, so we did get a VAT repayment. Good. Okay. Page 36, everyone happy? Moving on to page 37. Brings us down to the end. We happy with that one? Yep, I see no hands or waving. Page 38, we're moving on to payments as opposed to receipts. Starting off Southwest Water.
Chairman, if I may, please.
Please.
Sorry, I see that some items in the left-hand column have been redacted. Presumably that's because it's sensitive information, is that right? And this is in the public domain?
We tend to redact individuals' names, so it's where an individual name has interacted. So that tends to be the redaction. I think that's the policy at the moment. So if it's a company, we'll put it. If it's an individual, we'll redact it.
Okay.
So this is payments. Okay, so we've got the rates going out to Teambridge, payroll going out to Teambridge, the skate park works going through. Can I ask what UTax? Oh, it's photocopier charges. There we go. I see it. Yes. Okay. Gotcha. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself and not reading all the information in front of me. There we go. The gas, mobiles, internet. ETCTA, East Teambridge Community Transport Association.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the grant's being paid out. Are we happy with everything on page 38?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Page 39, starting Tyndall newspapers, British Gas, and then payroll again for TDC. Are we content with that page? Yep, I'm seeing nodding heads. Thank you very much. Moving on to page 40, which is intentionally blank. Page 41, which is confusingly titled page 44 at the top of it on the report, but it's page 41 of our bundle. Receipts for the month for NatWest One card. So I think that's just the payment of the card. Okay, moving on, unless there's any questions on that, to page 42, which is headed page 45. First line is eBay, and then Smarty. Okay, so nice to see us buying things from eBay as opposed to going to the highest payment. So it's good to see a bit of smart purchasing going on there. Sainsbury's for the Helping Dawlish shopping. Any comments on this page? No. Okay, so we're all happy there. Let's move on. That's it. That's the last page. And any questions on this overall? No, relatively straightforward this month. I'll propose from the chair. Can I see a show of hands for approval, please? Unanimous. Thank you very much. I think that's it. We're done. Look at that, within the hour. Didn't quite make within the 45 minutes, but within the hour, not bad.
Good. Good.
I call the meeting to a close. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, for your attention and your